Southampton defeat Arsenal 2-1 in the FA Cup quarter-final, and just like that, back-to-back losses for Arsenal. 4 competitions becomes 2. Maybe we'll have to make do with a double. But look, there's a lot to talk about. I understand there's going to be some nerves and some tension and a lot of bottling talk as well around the narrative that you may already be hearing. So let's get into it all. This is the Real Arsenal Deal podcast. Hello and welcome back to the Real Arsenal Deal. Rav here, as always, your host. How is everyone today, wherever you are in the world? Thank you for tuning in. I hope you're well. I'm recording this just a few minutes after the final whistle. Arsenal exit the FA Cup. Deserved exit, by the way. Southampton were excellent. They were right up for the battle, weren't they? They were right up for the fight. It was a great atmosphere at their stadium, St Mary's. It's a difficult place for Arsenal to go to. We've had a lot of challenges in that stadium, let's just say, over the years. And look, I can't fault the result. I'll get that out of the way first. I think Southampton absolutely deserved it. Saturday night, 8 p.m. kickoff local time. Easter weekend, the crowd were up for it. The atmosphere was fantastic. The energy in the stadium, it gave them a huge lift. And fair play to them. Fair play to Southampton. I've got no issue with the result. We need to call it like it is. Arsenal were well off the pace, well off the boil. Too many players below their usual standards, as Arteta talks about, the non-negotiables. And we were just far off it. And we can say all the right things, that we made a number of changes. We've got a deep squad. You've got players who are clearly rusty. They're in different condition as well. Players like Odegaard making his long-awaited return. He looked good in flashes, but faded. Lewis Skelly, he faded as well. He looked very good midweek in the international run. Havertz are still building fitness up. So you can say all these things as well. And at the same time, I feel multiple things can be true as well. That despite the question marks over fitness and conditioning and the disjointed nature of our players stepping in, stepping out, it was a bit of a cobbled together lineup. Compared to our best 11, quote unquote. Multiple things can be true, and you can also just say this part as well, which I think is most damning from an Arsenal point of view. Max Dowman is just an amazing footballer. We have something special on our hands here. We genuinely do. I know there's been a lot of hype and a lot of talk about him, and we are doing our best to shield him from that and not get too swept away in that sort of stuff. And you can see it get to players' heads, and you got to go out there and actually do it. It's one thing to have all the potential and all the talk and the buzz coming through the youth ranks, but to go out there and actually do it on a senior basis, on a senior football basis. These are grown men, some of them probably double his age. The physical toll as well it takes on his body. This is not like he's playing, he can drift through matches in under 16s, 17s. I think he's playing 19s now. That's right, he played under 19s for England. But then you come into a grown man's game, and he just looked a world apart. He looked so good. Almost everything Arsenal did well went through Max Dowman, and Max Dowman was involved in some capacity. Now, as wonderful as that is for him, and as amazing it is to have such a special talent on our hands here, it's not a good reflection of Arsenal. It's just not. You've got senior internationals in and around him. I don't like pointing. I don't like singling out players. I don't want to do that too much. In fact, what I want to do in this recording, for those of you who choose to listen, by the way, I can imagine a result like this off the back of losing the Carabao Cup. A lot of Arsenal fans want to stay away from the content, and I totally respect that, by the way. You've got to do what you've got to do, because the noise, the narrative around Arsenal is just going to be at fever pitch. It's going to be at boiling point as this week unfolds, and as we get to Sporting Lisbon and then, of course, Bournemouth in the Premier League, Man City next weekend. It's going to be at boiling point this next couple of weeks. So be mindful of what you consume is what I'm saying. But what I prefer to do is I'd like to just spend just a couple of minutes talking about the game, because I just want to compartmentalize the match itself and put it into a box. Then I want to talk more so, just broadly speaking, about Arsenal, what we've still got on the cards here, where we've come from, and the journey to be in this juncture in early April with so much still in our hands, in our control, and so much still to play for. I'd rather spend the bulk of the time talking about that, maybe from a therapeutic point of view, perhaps for me more than anything else, right? So for those of you who listen, I quite often use this podcast as an outlet for my own thoughts about Arsenal. I'm otherwise quite scattered, and I too get swept away in thought patterns that take me down to roads that I don't need to. So I'm able to compress it, put it out there, and hopefully it's some value to you. But getting back to what I was saying about Max Dowman, this was a poor showing from his senior teammates. I don't want to single players out, so I'll talk them collectively as a group. You've got Brazilian internationals in and around him. Antonelli, Gabriel Jesus. Jesus in particular was very, very absent in the match. In key moments, he drifted, right? I didn't really notice him doing the things that we know that when we talk about our forward profiles, we know all of them have different attributes. Which is unique. Perez is unique. He's a little bit of a blend of either he can drop deep, he's higher touch than say Gyokeres is, right? He can pick up the ball in positions where sometimes he doesn't need to be because you want him further forward, but he gives you an outlet. He gives you technical control. He can retain the ball at times. And just sometimes even the little things that we needed sometimes, that we needed someone to get the ball, retain it. It was too end to end. It was scattered. We were charging forward, charging back, players sprinting out of position. We were caught short, fullbacks and pressed high. How many times was Gabriel doing the dirty work on his own at the back, or Mosquera? Mosquera had to, sweep up as well. An amazing intervention in the first half that, Southampton should have scored from. It should have been 1-0 there, to be completely honest. But we were just too disjointed. And sometimes you just need a senior professional just to come on and get their foot on the ball, knock it around, use their experience, just connect with the likes of Odegaard, Norgard, knock the ball around, just sap the energy out of the game, just take some control, dial down the tempo, especially away on a Saturday night. And we didn't really have that. We didn't have that from our players that you're looking to show that leadership, to show that experience. And that was quite disappointing for me. I can compartmentalize the loss. If you're a listener of my channel, you've probably heard me say as well that something had to give at some point this season. As great as it is to have this deep squad, playing every 3.5 days, as we have been for several months now, it's not sustainable. The players will gassed and look tanked. There's mental fatigue just as much as physical fatigue. I think it's wearing the players down. I think it's wearing Arteta down. It's great to be in so many competitions, sure. However, you can spread yourself too thin. And that's what I've worried for a while about Arsenal. I'm not okay with losing the match in the manner that we did. I'm not okay with just how meekly we performed in the Carabao Cup final. Well, once you get to a final, you want to win it. You want to lift that trophy, slay the dragon, get that monkey off your back, defeat City, hold up a trophy and get that nice moment with yourselves, get the medals, get the players to celebrate, give something to the crowd who did experience that in the FA Cup during COVID. And you can ride that wave of energy to propel the remaining few months, but we didn't have that either. So I can deal with the fact that we're not going to win everything because from my point of view, we haven't won yet. We haven't actually done it. So until we actually lift one trophy, right, I will celebrate then. I will celebrate madly. In fact, as we are going to London in a few weeks' time to experience some of this. So I will celebrate widely just with the Premier League. This whole thing about a treble, a quadruple, which has come and gone, and now it's potentially a double. You got to go out and do it. Like I will be perfectly content, perfectly happy with the Premier League. The Premier League is the one I want more than anything else. It's the one that I want. The Champions League too. These are two major first tier premium trophies. We've never won the Champions League, right? That we lost the final 20 years ago and haven't returned to it, haven't had that opportunity since. So you take what you can get. I don't think that this treble quadruple talk was ever realistic. It was largely external, right? It's a media narrative. It's a media construct. It's driven for headlines, clickbait, and people can artificially elevate you just to pop you down. And I'm sure they're doing that right now. I'm sure as I'm recording this, there's all that bottling talk. There's all that, Manchester City are coming talk. They're going to be really banging that drum hard in the lead up to that Manchester City match at the Etihad away in a fortnight's time. It's got to be on like Donkey Kong. And I know what they're doing too. They build you up to cut you down. Inside of Arsenal, though, internally, we have to block out that noise. You have to find a way, because there's still so much to play for from an Arsenal point of view. You can't implode now. You can't throw it away now. The way we've built ourselves to be in this position, we absolutely deserve it. And you need to we need to somehow recapture some of that resolute ruthlessness we had from August till around December, like the way we shut out games. Remember that run of games where we didn't give the opposition anything? We didn't even concede a shot on target. It was almost an insult. That seems to have gone now, hasn't? And I can understand that, yeah, to an extent, because as you get closer and closer to the finish line, the nerves kick in, the tension. We're all human beings, right? All of us. Until you actually go out there and win it, you can feel that desire to win in whichever way possible. You can see it leads to this edginess, this caution, this timid way that Arsenal play. And I've long said that once you break through that, once you actually win it, I don't think you're going to see this next season from Arsenal. I think if Arsenal go on and win the Premier League, this cautious way of football and this dour way that, people label us as boring and stuff, I think we're going to smash that. I think next season, if you win, you go out there with that freedom again. I think it's going to be very, very different. But for right here, right now, Arsenal are just in this mentality that we just have to find a way to win. So that was a very long preamble, wasn't it? I kind of got lost on a train of thought then. But look, just getting back to the match itself, I'd like to just put this into a box, so I'll spend a couple of minutes talking about the game, the lineup, the welcome return, Odegaard, much needed. He's only started 13 league games this season. I mean, it doesn't get talked about enough, right? Yes, he's so critical in chance creation and all that good stuff. We know that Odegaard is very potent in the final third. But also, he's just a calming influence. Like, he can receive the ball, his dribbling, his technical control. He gives us a ball retention as well that we otherwise really lack. The chaotic ways that some matches finish now, especially in the league, where it's really tense, it's really nervous. We're trying to squeeze every last drop out of our players on the field to not concede a goal, not concede an equaliser. Odegaard is critical in those moments, and we've really, really missed him. So it was great to see him back. And unfortunately, from Odegaard's point of view as well, that the key moment, that shot, that cutback from Martinelli, which was an excellent cutback, by the way, probably Martinelli's brightest patch of the game. He did beautifully to drift inside the fullback, cut it back to Odegaard, and the shot just completely botched it. I think it went off from one foot to the other and went out for a goal kick. I mean, just really, really frustrating. And it was strange because just a few minutes earlier, he found he used his quick feet to shoot from outside the box, and he made great contact with it, but unfortunately straight at the keeper. Like, where was that shot, Cal, when we actually needed it? Really, really frustrating, unfortunately. But to have Odegaard back in the lineup was critical. Havertz started as well. Norgard, a number of changes across the field as we expected. There was completely absent from the lineup, from the squad to begin with. There was no Timber, no Trossard, no Rice, no Saka. So we still have enough quality, though, to put out a very, very good lineup. I mean, Martinelli, Jesus, Dowman on the way. Great to see him start. Interesting that Ben White started. He didn't go with Salmon this time. If the match was different, had we gone ahead, maybe Salmon could have cut on and timeshared at right back, for the final 20 minutes or so, but unfortunately not to be. Gabriel started alongside Mosquera, and then Lewis Elliott left back. Lewis Elliott had a difficult game, I must say. Too often, I think our fullbacks did have a good game overall. I mean, White, I know he'll be much maligned for their goal. He should absolutely be clear now. I won't call any punches on it. It looks poor. He's misjudged it completely, jumped at the wrong time, and the attacker has just said, thank you very much for the gift, and he's put it on. Not much Kepa could do with that one. But just collectively, I do wonder as well, just, are we going to see Kepa again? Barring any injury now to Raya, I think I don't want to go too hard on this Kepa thing either, because, he wasn't at fault. Like I said, he's not the reason we lost the game, and he's not the reason we lost the Carabao Cup. But I just wonder, just as a defensive unit, we don't look as stable with him. And I know it's not just about him; it's about the personnel as well. Because when we change goalkeeper were also changing the back four in front of him. I know that. But just collectively, we just don't look assured. Yeah, but he does have some good moments, like his distribution. Sometimes he dishes off a pass or a throw, and I think, like, where's that come from? Like, that's amazing. I'll do that more often and do it quicker. But Raya is elite for a reason. The way he can distribute, he gives you that assurance, just complete calming influence at times as well. I mean, there was a comical way. I'm jumping right ahead now, I know, to almost the final minute or two. But there was a comical, passage of play right at the end of the game that maybe just made you want to just turn the TV off and walk away. I had him on. I just wanted to throw the remote. But Gyokeres had taken, Dowman had drawn a foul. Gyokeres had lined up to take a shot. I have no problem with he taking the shot, by the way. He was probably the most likely to get it on target. The ball, it wasn't a great shot. The ball has come off the wall. It's worked its way back to our defenders. We've worked its way all the way back to Kepa. Kepa's dilly-dally. We just need to hoof it forward, right? Because all of our players are committed that way. And he just lumps it to the side for a throw in. And that passage of play, like, you could cue the Benny Hill music. It was just comical. And it's a moment like that. It's just not our night. It's not our day. We're not going to score here. We're not going to win this one. And look, I just think it's going to be the last time we probably see a lineup of this disjointed. That's not to say there won't be minutes for the likes of Norgard or whatnot, but I think what we're going to find now, exiting the other two competitions, well, the Carabao Cup, that will have finished anyway. With only Premier League and Champions League to play for now, which is so much still to play for, by the way. Still a lot of fixtures to come. That we are going to see a much more stable lineup. And look, I welcome that. I really do think at this stage of the season, barring, 2 or 3 changes, injuries, absences, illness, of course, there's going to be a bit of chopping and changing for each lineup. But the bulk of the team, the core of the team, I think you're going to see a very familiar pattern now, a very familiar bunch of names, a group of, say, 7, 8 players who are going to start this running. Just onto the match itself, from the outset, it was very high energy, high tempo, not the type of match that Arsenal typically prefer. However, in a cup match against lower league opposition, this is what you expect. It's very end-to-end stuff. You could see a lot of sprints, a lot of early sprints as well. I think for about 7 or 8 minutes, it was just continuous, back and forth, and the ball went out of play at one point, the first break in play, and I could see on the players' faces, a lot from both teams, by the way, that were really blowing, like huffing and puffing deep, because it was a very frenetic opening. I've already mentioned how many times our fullbacks left us exposed. We were higher up the pitch. A lot of clean-up, mop-up work for Gabriel and Mosquera to do, which doesn't fill me with a lot of joy, right? Because you don't like that sort of chaos from an Arsenal point of view. But we also had real good moments at the other end. Arsenal registered 24 attempts on goal this match, and I saw the stat that it was 9 shots on target, 9, and so many of them I found were just straight at the keeper, or we should have done better with. There was even moments that it just doesn't get registered as a shot on target. There was a really well-worked corner in the second half that we played it short. Martinelli had worked his way into open space right in front of the box. Beautifully worked. It must be a set play. Madueke threaded him through, and Marta, you just got to get it on target. You have to test the keeper from there, and it's gone out for a goal kick. And Madueke did the same as well when he came on. Very interesting that he started out wide, and Dowman came in inside as the 10, which he looked fantastic in, by the way. And Madueke just blazed away too often, or he'd get in behind a fullback, but the final ball or he'd fall over, and just unfortunately it amounted to nothing. Just real frustration from an Arsenal point of view, despite how disjointed and despite the poor moments we had. We left goals out there on the table. We should have done better. And also, speaking of doing better, for long-time listeners of mine, thank you, by the way, but please bear with me, because I'm going to repeat a real pet peeve, a rant of mine that absolutely does my head in. Speaking of doing better, Arsenal do not exploit opportunities such as fullbacks on a yellow card. We just don't do it. And it really does do my head in, because we work so hard to draw a foul and draw a yellow card. And as you know, that sometimes it takes repeated hacks down of the likes of Saka or something to finally get a fullback on a yellow card. I've been saying this for years. And for some reason, we don't take advantage of that. We don't sit off them. what I'm basically trying to say is that there's a way to be ruthless in game management and get a player sent off. And I'm not saying this in a nasty, malicious way. I'm saying this like exploit the opportunity. There's no better example than the match against City in the Carabao Cup final. Do you remember when Hincapié got his yellow card early in the first half? Remember the way it completely transformed the way we played, how much we sat back. For the next 12, 15 minutes, it changed the whole dynamic of the match. It had a very disproportionate impact on our whole play. We were just very cautious, very timid. Hincapié had to sit back because he doesn't want to get a second yellow and we're down to 10 men. And City took full advantage. They just knew they got ruthless winners who just give the ball to Semenyo, just let him cook, let him just go at Hincapié. And they got a lot of joy in that match. It just changed the whole dynamic. This time, I mean, Damon was as wonderful as he was, and I mean this with absolute sincerity. So for some reason, we stopped giving him the ball when he drawn the yellow card from their left back. I forgot his name, but he was having a torrid time against Downman. Downman was starting wide on the touchline, cutting in. In fact, he cut in so well one time that just his shot, I don't think he could believe that he was in such a prime position to shoot. And it was a very weak, tame shot that was his straight to keeper, unfortunately. But Downman was getting a lot of joy in that opening 20 minutes. From the yellow card to, I can't remember what point it was in the second half, but there was a large chunk of time, it felt to me about 25, 30 minutes of match time that I couldn't recall Arsenal giving Downman the space just to run one-on-one dribble at that fullback. And it really does do my head in because the ruthless teams, you got to have this element in you. I know a lot gets said about dark arts and Arsenal. You know, we explored the dark arts. I'm not going to make any qualms about that. We know what we're doing sometimes when a player goes down to suck the life out of a match, or Raya needs treatment, or we take extra long on a goal kick or throw. We know what we're doing. We can read matches in play. But there's something about, you know, when you look back on the great Guardiola teams, what springs to mind now, remember the likes of Xavi, Iniesta in those 2010s, right? That they would do what they absolutely can between just needling the referee or just, you know, talking to each other and trying to get a player sent off, right, who's already on a yellow card. They would take full advantage of a situation like this. And even City do now, the likes of Rodri, Bernardo Silva, seasoned winners who have that streak in them. That's what we lack sometimes, just that ruthless nature to say, hey, this guy's on a yellow card. Max Dowman is cooking them. Let's overload that area. Let's just go there as much as we can. Draw a foul, draw some padding, just do it and see what happens. Because you might get another nasty, cynical foul. You might get a penalty. You might get a second yellow card. But we didn't do that, and it's not just this game. I see it so often from Arsenal that we just take the foot off the throat when we shouldn't. Like, go in for the kill, have that ruthless edge to you, and just everything could be different. Sorry for the rant. I just had to get that off my chest because when I saw that again, part of me said, yes, you got him on a yellow. Now go for it. But inside, I also knew that we don't do it often enough, and we've left another opportunity on the table here again. Anyway, enough of that. What I want to do is just round off my match commentary for a moment. I've already covered their first goal. Very, very poor. He needed to make changes in the second half. In fact, I'm surprised Arteta didn't do it at halftime. Early in the second half, we've made the three substitutions. Immediately to look better. Gyokeres came on, and I forgot the third change for a moment. That's right. Calafiori came on for Lewis Yemi. Those changes were necessary. We immediately looked better. An excellent equalising goal, by the way. I think it was Gyokeres' first touch. We always pushed forward, pushed higher, because we could retain the ball, so we actually had more space and time in our build-up play. Lovely pass to play Havertz in, a cut back into Gyokeres, precision stuff, and one-time finish, and bang, 1-1. And it was just, we made it look so easy. What I loved is straight away, like, we just grabbed the ball. We grabbed the ball straight back to the centre circle because we wanted to go on and win it. And I love that. And I really did think that it was inevitable that over the next 15, 20 minutes, we'd find a second goal and we'd see it through. Unfortunately, not to be. Full credit to Southampton. I mean, look, it's not a great goal to concede again. I mean, that they had a number of players forward, yes, but we had defenders back, and it's just squeezed out to them, and he's hit it well, and it's gone inside at the side netting. Look, had Arsenal scored that goal, I would be lauding the finish. I would be saying it's unsavable, and hit the side netting and the keeper's not going to save that. And I'd be talking up the praises of a clinical finish. Fair enough. You give him his dues. He finished where we couldn't. 9 shots on target for Arsenal for 1 goal. And I've forgotten how many shots on target Southampton had, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was perhaps 3, maybe 4. I think their total shots were probably single digits as well. And you know what? Football is just about finishing, isn't it? So I haven't seen the XG stats, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Arsenal comfortably ahead. But 2-1 is the final scoreline, and that's how football works. That's the game. So I'd like to put all of that to the side for a moment and just talk about now where I see things from here. I think the next fortnight as going to be the most intense, the most pressure cooker style narrative that Arsenal are going to be in for the entire season. I think there's going to be a lot of people who have been sharpening the knives and they've had them sharp and ready for so long. They're going to have an absolute field day with this. It's the first time that Arsenal have lost successive matches all season. Remember how we used to say that it's only been 3 losses, and you could compartmentalize all 3 losses because it was that mad scramble against Villa, the final kick of the game, 2 worldies against Manchester United, and including that Zubimendi mistake to let them back in the game, and that Szoboszlai free kick at Anfield. So you could put all that into a box and say, look what it takes to beat Arsenal, right? But that's now sort of waned, hasn't it? Because we've lost 2 games in a row, and the nature of the 2 losses are not the same. Right, we were comfortably below our standards on both these matches. We were well below our usual levels. And this is where I think that intensity, that volume is going to dial right up. So brace yourselves, be very, very careful what you consume and be very careful what rabbit holes you go down into. I'm talking to myself as much as anyone who chooses to listen to me, by the way, because this next 2 weeks, it's going to be on like Donkey Kong. They are going to be dancing on Arsenal's grave already, despite our, a healthy position in the league. We've got a nice league. Yes, we've got Sporting in the Champions League, the second leg at the Emirates. Which all things being equal, you really think we should advance in that tie, absolutely. But we've got Bournemouth at home next weekend, and then away to Manchester City. So it goes Sporting away, home to Bournemouth, home to Sporting in second leg, and then away to City. The entire season is almost going to come down to this next fortnight. As ridiculous as that sounds, of course, there's still plenty of league matches after, and City still have to have play their other matches too. They've still got a game in hand, don't they? So as silly as it sounds, but they're going to make so much of this next fortnight, and we must respond. What Arsenal have done so well this season, I've described this before, is that we have been answering questions all season. When we've been tested, where we've been asked something, we've been challenged, we have answered. We have answered in different ways, in different forms, by different players in different moments, in different stadiums. That is the foundation of a Premier League title. That's how you get it done. Brick by brick, you build the trophy. And we must recapture that form, that desire to say, we're not letting it go now. You don't work this hard to come to this juncture, to be in the driver's seat, have 2 hands on the steering wheel, only to veer off track now. You just cannot do that. It cannot be accepted. And there's only so many times you can keep saying the things about like, we'll learn from that mistake. We'll understand, we'll unpack what happened here, and we'll improve from here. You've got to go out there and do it now. And I think everyone inside of Arsenal knows that. I think the players know that. I think Arteta knows that you must go out there now and start answering the questions again. We've answered almost everything up until the last couple of weeks. Now go out there and do it again. And the noise is going to be intense. There's almost a siege mentality now inside of Arsenal that is us versus them. And we all know the reasons. I've covered the reasons why. I did that special recording. You'll see it back in your podcast feed about the Arsenal agenda. I put it out on YouTube as well. If you haven't come across it, you're welcome to. But they're all waiting. They're all going to be having a absolute field day. Even the other day, I was wearing an Arsenal shirt at the supermarket and a gentleman walked past me, a City fan, and he said in a good-natured way, he said, "Come on, City." And I looked at him and gave him a little wink, and I gave a bit of a half. I said, "Yeah, look, we still got to go out there and do it." And he said, "You're going to crumble again, aren't you?" And gave me a wink. And look, this is the energy outside of Arsenal. They're just waiting for Arsenal to bottle, to crumble, and you cannot feed that narrative. You just absolutely cannot. Enough is enough. You have to draw the line now and just say, we're going to go out there and do it. And truth be told, and I'm saying this to myself as much as anyone else, Arsenal go out there and blitz Sporting in this tie and get to a semi-final. If we go out there and win against Bournemouth, did you stumble? We come out with a result at the Etihad in a couple of weeks' time. Are we going to care about losing to Southampton in the cup? Are we going to care about exiting? Well, we're not. I'm saying it right now. I'm absolutely not. I know I'm talking in the broad hypothetical, but I'm going back to my earlier foundation just to be consistent with this. I want the Premier League. I absolutely want the league. I want the league more than anything else. And if we lose that, like, I'm going to be heartbroken. If we let sit here, I have genuine concern about what happens next, but I'm not going to allow myself to go down too far down that rabbit hole. I prefer instead to channel it to this, that Arsenal go out there and do Sporting. We do Bournemouth. We get a result. We're not going to care about this. I'm not going to care. I'm not going to revisit this match. In fact, I won't. I'm not going to watch Southampton again, just like I haven't watched the Carabao Cup final. I don't care. I want the league. So go out there now and do it. Like, just relish the opportunity. This is what I want from Arsenal. They've worked so hard to be here. Answered everything that's been thrown at us. Answered every challenge. Now go out there and do it. The players deserve it. Arteta deserves it. And if I could talk from a selfish point of view as well, for the fans who have been there through this entire journey, this ride, we want this too. We want this more than anyone collectively. And I'm just really hoping that Arsenal just decide enough is enough now. Players rise, write your legacy. This is what champions are made of, right? Hopefully in this next patch of form, we have the likes of returning, the likes of Saka, Rice, Timber, Saliba will start, Raya, Odegaard getting fit again. This is where legacies are written. If they're refreshed, revitalized, their mentality is set, that desire, this is where you write yourselves into the Arsenal legend books. And just please go out there and do it. I'm really positive that we will. However, now more than ever is the time to show it. This next fortnight, it's on like donkey. So thank you so much for listening and putting up with me. I know it's a post-match recording about Southampton, but I was talking more broadly as well. So please let me know how you're feeling. I'd love to hear your feedback. Have I got anything right, wrong? If you listen this far, I thank you, because I know losses like this are quite tough to digest for the fan base. So please like and subscribe on YouTube. Leave me a 5-star review and follow the show on Apple or Spotify if you'd be so kind. That would be amazing. And please just look after yourself. Be really mindful of what you consume. I hope that makes sense to you. And let's take a breath. And I'll talk to you all again in a few days' time after the first leg against Sporting. Until then, look after yourselves. Check in with your loved ones. Come on, Arsenal.